Good morning, the 5th of August 2019, Monday, bank holiday. Just a few reference books that I use and to justify some of the claims I make. Here's one here called Corporate Finance, Principles and Practice by Denzel Watson and Anthony Head. That's published by the Financial Times. It's used in many Irish universities, and it deals with all that derivatives and investment and folios. Needless to say, there's a bit of dust on some of these. Another good one is The Principles of Irish Law by Brian Doolan. This is Irish law. Very safe book to use if you're doing anything in Irish. Good book, the thick version of it. It's the 6th edition by Brian Doolan, and I think it's published by Gillan Macmillan, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Gillan Macmillan. And it deals with a lot of good stuff. Now, not everything's in it, but there's a good lot. You have to be careful to use Irish books because you could get caught out. There's difference in Irish and British law, even though there are similarities. So the other one is On Your Isle, the EIA directive. So this is a book by On Your Isle, and it's called Effective Judicial Protection and the Environmental Impact Directive in Ireland. That's it there. Oh, by On Your Isle. You can't read that, I wouldn't expect you to. But it's a good enough book, but she does a lot of talking about the merits of it without going into the nitty gritty of the EIA directive. But good enough book to have. And another one I often use is the Financial Times. And I remember long ago buying this, and this fellow was coming out with the Irish Independent, and he says, you must have money when you're buying that. And what they don't realise is 99% of financial information that you get in the other papers comes from the Financial Times. They pay them a premium and they produce it. So as I said, this is clip 13 now, and it's on planning, on the environment and planning, and I just show it to you here. Now, when it comes to the environment and planning permission, there's 3 things you need to get clear. There's a public planner programme, see at the top there. That is covered by the SEA directive. There's a project which is covered by the Environmental Impact Assessment Directive, and there's a development which is under the Planning and Development Act. Okay, we'll be coming back to them in a minute, so I don't want to give too much detail because it becomes boring. Now, the first thing to remember is that the European Charter of Fundamental Human Rights at Article 37, I'm reading it directly here now on the computer, says a high level of environmental protection and the improvement of the quality of the environment must be integrated into the policies of the Union and ensured in accordance with the principles of sustainable development. So we were promised that, okay? I'll read it to you once more. It's Article 37 of the Fundamental Charter of Human Rights of the European Union. A high level of environmental protection and the improvement of the quality of the environment must be integrated into the policies of the Union and ensured in accordance with the principles of sustainable development. So there's the first indication of the EU in the Charter of Fundamental Human Rights that the environment is to be taken seriously. So the next thing then we look for is the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union. And I'll just read, this is Article 174. There's a good lot in it, well worth looking it up. And incidentally, if you're looking for EU directives or anything to do with the EU publications, search whatever it is. Let's say it's SEA directive. If you have the number 2001 42 EC and put in the word Curio or Lux or both, there's so much other stuff out there like Wikipedia, but if you want to get the real article, get the one up from the EU itself, and it'll have the preamble, the reason for it, and it'll have the laws underneath. So Curio is a good word to put in, and LUX is a good word to put in, and that brings you straight in to the source of the information itself, and gets you the actual legislation rather than somebody's commentary on it. So just to read now the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union, Article 174. The Union policy on the environment shall contribute to pursuit of the following objectives. Right, you have that. Preserving, protecting and improving the quality of the environment. And that was a big one when I was voting for the EU, always. That was very important. Preserving, protecting and improving the quality of the environment. Protecting human health. Prudent and rational utilisation of natural resources. Promoting measures at international level to deal with regional and worldwide environmental problems, and in particular combating climate change. That's what's in there. The Union policy on the environment shall aim at a high level of protection, taking into account the diversity of situations and in the various regions of the Union. It shall be based on the precautionary principle, and on the principles that preventative action should be taken, that environment damage should be a priority rectified at source, and that the polluter should pay. So that's basically the Treaty of Functioning of the European Union. This was their wish list, and it was good. I mean, if you haven't the environment, you can judge yourself what the environment is like. So I'll delete those here now and just go to the first point. Essentially, there's a hierarchy of 3 in the Irish planning process. There's a public planner programme, there's a project, and there's a development. So we look at the public planner programme. This is the overarching plan, and I have it here. It's EU Directive 2001 42 EC. EU Directive 2001 EC. So you see it there, 2001 42 EC. And that's the SEA Directive, SEA, Strategic Environmental Assessment Directive. And I want to read you out here from my computer, Article 3 of that directive. An environmental assessments in accordance with Article 4 and 9, 4 to 9, Articles 4 to 9, shall be carried out for plans and programmes referred to in paragraph 2 to 4, which are likely to have a significant impact on the environment or significant environmental effects. Subject to paragraph 3, an environmental assessment shall be carried out for all plans and programmes which are prepared for agriculture, forestry, fishery, energy, industry, transport, waste management, water management, telecommunications, tourism, town and country planning, or land use, and which set the framework, and this is very important, which set the framework for future planning consent of projects listed in Annex 1 and 2 of the Directive 85-337 EEC. That's the EIA Directive. That's the projects, right? Now, that's clearly states that they have to carry out an assessment, an environmental report with an assessment on those projects, and they include all those I named, including energy and town and country planning being big examples. It's also for forestry and fisheries. So if there's a government plan or programme, they have to carry it out. So the next thing is, it goes down then to Article 5. They compile an environmental report. So they put forward their plan. So for example, supposing there was some EU money or government money to upgrade 10 Irish ports, small ports, to make them suitable for larger craft. And we say that Killala was one, Mullaghmore, Greenore, maybe something in Waterford, Bantry, Dingle, whatever it was. Doesn't really matter whether it's a report. We'd say they were going to upgrade them. And they included in it Kilnahard Pier at Lough Sheelin in Cavan. Well, straight away, that shouldn't be there. That's a lake. That's not an ocean port. So someone would have to have a way of telling them that there's a problem. Take that off it. And if they were told, they would take it off it. So Article 5, Article 5 deals with that and says the environmental report must be produced It must be subject to public participation and participation by the other government agencies or other agencies which have to be named, and they have to have the right to have their say. They have to have their submission taken into account, and there has to be reasons given if the decision doesn't conform to their ideas of what is. So, for example, if someone said Kilnahard Pier is a lake and they say it's the sea, they'd have to justify that, and that's subject to judicial review. Okay, now I want to read Article 6. The draft plan or programme of the environment report and the environmental report prepared in accordance with Article 5 shall be available to the authorities referred to at paragraph 3 of the article and to the public. The authorities referred to in paragraph 3 and the public referred to in paragraph 4 shall be given an early, E-R-L-Y, and effective opportunity within the appropriate time frame, an early and effective opportunity, to express their opinion on the draft plan or programme and the accompanying environmental report before the adoption of the plan or programme or its submission to the legislative procedure. So if it's going to become planning permission, that's the legislative procedure, or whatever they're doing, which there is laws in that country. This has to be done first. Now, Article 3. Member States shall designate the authorities to be consulted, which by reason of their specific environmental responsibilities are likely to be concerned by the environmental effects of the plan or programme. Now, Member States shall identify, this is Article subsection 4, Article 6.4. Member States shall identify the public for the purposes of paragraph 2, including the public affected or likely to be affected or having an interest in the decision making subject to this directive, including relevant non-government organisations such as those promoting environmental protection and other organisations concerned. So the directive clearly says the public have to be involved. You notice how I omit the government bodies such as An Taisce. As far as I'm concerned, they are not at the races at all. Sometimes they do some good, sometimes they don't. The point is the public are the ones who knows what's going on the ground, and that's the law. Now, Article 7 deals with the transboundary effects if it's going across into Northern Ireland or whatever, and that's also the law. So that's the SCA directive, and very importantly in that directive, is that the environmental report sets the framework for future planning consent of projects. And that means that the overall use of this plan has to be dealt with and finished off, so that when you go to the planning stage, Cavan County Council, Meath County Council or any other county council, and on board Planola, don't have to concern themselves with the overall use of it. It's trimmed. So if you have the wrong inland port on your public plan or programme, on your environmental report, it's taken off. So what gets through is the pared down version of the environmental report. And now the articles in the SCA directive and the EIA directive on public participation come about as a result of the Aarhus Convention, signed by Ireland in 2012 and by the EU in 2005. And that's on public participation. And the Maastricht recommendations are online, very, very important. And they advise on how to involve the public for plans and programmes and for projects. So the Maastricht recommendations deal with people who can't read, people who may not have the internet, making sure everyone gets a chance. And fundamental to the SCA process is there has to be proper notification, and there never is. It's a little note somewhere on the internet. It's never published on a radio or television or anything else. So they're cheating on that. But more importantly, while there was buckshe, inefficient, inadequate, SCA is done on some things, including offshore wind energy, there was none done for onshore wind. The wind farms which are onshore were never assessed under the SEA directive, and I and several others have made several efforts to bring that to their attention, and the government refused to listen. The result is the entire onshore wind energy programme in Ireland is proceeding without proper authority, without any assessment at national level. Now we leave that, and I'm going to come back to this again because it's now 15 minutes. That's long enough. So you can see it's quite involved. But this points out and tells you the corruption. This is corruption when they refuse to implement the law. So we'll be back again for 13A, I think it's 13, this is 13A in a minute.